4:17 a.m., Harris County, Texas. Federal agents surrounded a structure that did not appear on any hospital registry. No medical license, no accreditation, no oversight. Inside, refrigeration units hummed in darkness. What they found was not a clinic, it was a vault of human remains. 250 preserved human hearts, no documentation, no consent forms, no chain of custody. A Somali national would confess within hours, but the question that haunted investigators was darker. Where did the hearts come from? Hit like right now so this story reaches the people who need to see what was hidden behind false research claims. The facility sat on the eastern industrial edge of Houston, surrounded by shipping warehouses and trucking depots. For 3 years, neighbors reported refrigerated trucks arriving after midnight. No signage identified the building. No staff entered during daylight. Security cameras covered every approach. When local code enforcement attempted inspections, they were turned away with documentation claiming federal research exemptions. Those exemptions were fabricated. The FBI's Biological Crimes Unit received an anonymous tip in September 2025. A former employee described conditions inside that violated every protocol governing human tissue storage. The tip included photographs, rows of glass containers, hearts suspended in preservative solution, handwritten labels with codes, not names. No institutional review board approval, no bioethics oversight, no connection to any accredited research program. Agents began surveillance on October 2nd. They documented delivery patterns. Refrigerated trucks arrived from 3 cities, El Paso, San Antonio, and Laredo, all border regions. Manifests listed the cargo as medical supplies. Thermal imaging revealed the building's interior was maintained at 38 degrees Fahrenheit, commercial-grade morgue temperature. Financial records showed the facility received wire transfers from accounts in Mogadishu, Dubai, and Istanbul. Over 14 months, $18 million moved through shell companies registered in Delaware and Nevada. The amounts matched no legitimate medical research budget. EICE Homeland Security investigations joined the case on October 19th, when transaction analysis revealed connections to individuals on federal watch lists. 3 names appeared repeatedly in encrypted communications. One was Abdirahman Khalif Osman, a Somali national who entered the United States on a medical research visa in 2019. His credentials claimed affiliation with a Mogadishu hospital that ceased operations in 2017. The visa was fraudulent. He had been living in Houston under a false identity, operating the facility through a network of shell entities. The operation was not isolated. Agents traced similar facilities to Detroit and Minneapolis. Smaller operations, fewer specimens, but the same financing structure. The same encrypted communications. The same absence of regulatory compliance. Comment "Justice" if you believe every name in this network must be exposed. By November 8th, federal prosecutors had assembled evidence for simultaneous raids across 3 states. The scale required coordination between FBI field offices, ICE tactical units, and the Texas Department of Public Safety. U.S. attorneys in Houston, Detroit, and Minneapolis synchronized warrant executions. The operation was designated Cardiac Breach. Briefings took place in a secure facility outside Houston on November 14th. Maps covered the walls. Red markers indicated the primary target in Harris County. Blue markers showed 2 secondary locations, Detroit's Eastern Industrial Zone and a Minneapolis storage unit complex near the airport. Agents reviewed floor plans obtained through covert entry weeks earlier. The Houston facility had reinforced doors, a central refrigeration chamber, and a separate office wing with encrypted server equipment. Intelligence suggested Osman spent nights on site, sleeping in a back room. He was not expected to resist violently, but the presence of substantial financial assets meant flight risk was extreme. The tactical plan called for pre-dawn execution. Darkness, surprise, simultaneous breach at all 3 locations. FBI hostage rescue team members would lead entry in Houston due to the facility's fortified structure. ICE agents would secure the Detroit and Minneapolis sites. Texas Rangers would establish perimeter containment in Houston and coordinate with local law enforcement to prevent media leaks before arrests were completed. November 16th, 4:04 a.m. Agents assembled in staging areas 1 mile from each target. In Houston, 27 federal agents and 12 Texas Rangers moved into position. The air was cold, unusual for mid-November in southeast Texas. Fog rolled off nearby bayou, concealing the tactical convoy's approach. Engines idled low, no lights, no sirens. At 4:17 a.m., the order came through encrypted radios: execute. The battering ram struck the Houston facility's steel door with precision. The lock shattered. Agents poured inside, flashlights cutting through darkness. Federal agents, search warrant. The refrigeration hum was deafening. The central chamber was larger than surveillance suggested. Rows of industrial shelving units lined the walls. On each shelf, glass containers, hearts preserved in formalin solution. Each container bore a handwritten label, numbers and letters. No names, no patient identifiers, no hospital codes. Agents counted as they documented. 50 containers on the first row, 60 on the second. The numbers climbed. 250 total. Each heart carefully preserved, each one representing a human life. But whose? If this shocks you, hit like now and comment your reaction below. In the office wing, agents found Abdi Rahman Khalif Osman seated at a desk, hands raised. He did not resist, he did not speak. On the desk, 3 encrypted phones, a laptop displaying financial spreadsheets. In the corner, a safe built into the wall. Agents used a portable drill to breach it. Inside, $470,000 in cash, bundled in plastic wrap, ledgers with coded entries, passports from Somalia, Kenya, and Turkey under different names, a handwritten list. The list contained 32 names, dates beside each. Cities: Ciudad Juárez, Matamoros, Reynosa, Tijuana, all border cities, all known human trafficking corridors. In Detroit, agents breached a warehouse near the riverfront at the same moment. 68 preserved organs, hearts, kidneys, livers, no documentation. A refrigerated truck was parked inside, engine running, ready for departure. The driver, a Kenyan national, was arrested attempting to flee through a rear exit. In Minneapolis, the storage unit contained 23 hearts and a mobile embalming station. A Somali man was found destroying documents in a barrel fire behind the units. Agents extinguished the fire and recovered partially burned shipping invoices. The invoices listed destinations in Europe and the Middle East. Back in Houston, forensic teams began the meticulous process of cataloging evidence. Each heart was photographed, tagged, logged. Medical examiners were brought in to assess the specimens. Preliminary analysis suggested the hearts had been harvested within the last 18 months. Some showed signs of recent preservation, others had been stored longer. But the condition of the tissue raised immediate questions. These were not donations from registered organ banks. These were not specimens from accredited medical schools. The procurement methods were unknown. The consent status was unknown. The identities of the deceased were unknown. Investigators turned to the ledgers. The codes began to make sense. Each entry corresponded to a transaction: dates of acquisition, amounts paid, destination cities. One entry read 37M-AB-14M-CJ-18K. Agents interpreted it as specimen 37, male, blood type AB, acquired March 14th from Ciudad Juárez, payment $18,000. Another, 82F-O-22-June 22-MT-22K. Specimen 82, female, blood type O, acquired June 22nd from Matamoros, payment $22,000. The prices varied based on blood type and organ quality. Rare blood types commanded higher payments. The operation was a market, human hearts as commodities. Type exposed if you want every detail of this network dragged into the light. The encrypted phones yielded critical intelligence. Once forensic analysts bypassed security protocols, messages appeared in Somali, Arabic, and English. Communications with buyers in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Wealthy clients seeking organs outside legal transplant systems. Messages discussed rare inventory, expedited shipping, and discretion guaranteed. One message thread from July 2025 confirmed a shipment of 3 hearts to Riyadh for $240,000 total. Another discussed a buyer in Istanbul willing to pay $90,000 for a heart with O-negative blood. The operation generated millions, but it required a supply chain. That chain led to the border. Federal investigators contacted Mexican authorities on November 17th. Intelligence sharing revealed disturbing patterns across northern Mexico. Migrants had been disappearing from cartel-controlled territories. Not traditional kidnappings for ransom. These were individuals who vanished without trace. No bodies recovered, no demands made. Families reported loved ones missing near border staging areas used by trafficking networks. Between January 2024 and October 2025, over 200 cases fit the profile. Young men and women, healthy, traveling alone or in small groups, last seen near Juarez, Matamoros, Reynosa, or Nuevo Laredo. Mexican forensic investigators had discovered shallow graves near these cities, bodies with organs removed, crude surgical incisions, no medical precision. Harvesting, not transplantation. The horror crystallized. The preserved hearts in Houston were not from donors, they were from victims. Migrants attempting to cross into the United States, vulnerable, undocumented, invisible. Cartels had expanded beyond drugs, weapons, and human smuggling. They had entered the organ trade. The system worked like this. Step 1. Kidnap migrants in cartel territories near the border. Step 2. Harvest organs using crude surgical methods. Step 3. Sell to networks like Osman's operation. Step 4. Transport the organs north across the border in refrigerated trucks disguised as medical supply shipments. Step 5. Store them in facilities like the Houston warehouse. Step 6. Ship them internationally to wealthy buyers. The victims' identities were erased. Their families never knew. Their bodies were discarded in desert graves. This was not opportunistic crime. This was industrial-scale exploitation. Share this video so more people understand what's happening at the border. Abdi Rahman Khalif Osman was interrogated on November 17th at the FBI field office in Houston. Initially, he invoked his right to silence, but when presented with evidence linking him to the Mexican cartel operations, he began to speak. His confession, delivered through a translator, detailed a network that spanned continents. Osman admitted he had been recruited in Mogadishu in 2018 by intermediaries connected to Gulf state buyers seeking organs outside legal channels. He was offered funding to establish a storage and logistics operation in the United States. His role? Procurement coordination and international shipping. He did not harvest the organs himself. That was handled by cartel-affiliated operatives in Mexico. His task was to receive, preserve, and distribute. He confirmed the 32 names in the ledger were victims, migrants whose organs had been harvested and transported to his facility. He claimed he did not know their full identities. He knew only codes, blood types, and acquisition dates. But investigators found more. On Osman's laptop, deleted files were recovered. Photographs, migrants alive, standing against walls, each holding a number card. The photographs were identification records, proof of inventory, proof the victims were alive before harvesting. Facial recognition analysis matched 3 of the individuals to missing person reports filed in Mexico and Central America. One was a 24-year-old Honduran man, last seen in Reynosa in April 2025. Another was a 19-year-old Salvadoran woman who disappeared near Matamoros in June. The third was a 31-year-old Guatemalan father of two who vanished outside Juarez in August. Their families had been searching. Now they had answers, but the answers brought no relief. Professional organizations issued statements condemning the operation. The American Medical Association called for stricter oversight of tissue procurement and storage facilities. Bioethics experts demanded federal legislation closing loopholes that allowed unlicensed entities to operate under false research claims. Congressional members from Texas, Michigan, and Minnesota announced hearings. Questions focused on how the facilities operated for years without detection, how fraudulent visas were approved, how shell companies concealed ownership, how international wire transfers escaped scrutiny. The human cost extended beyond the 32 confirmed victims. Investigators believe the number is higher. The ledgers contain codes for over 80 transactions. Not all specimens were recovered. Some had already been shipped internationally. Some may have been stored in locations not yet discovered. Families across Central America now faced the possibility that their missing loved ones were victims of this network. Mexican authorities began the process of attempting to match the recovered hearts with missing persons through DNA analysis. The process would take months. Many families might never receive confirmation. Communities along the southern border expressed devastation. Migrant advocacy groups had warned for years about disappearances in cartel territories. Reports were dismissed or ignored. Now, the full scale of exploitation was undeniable. Migrants were not just trafficked for labor or smuggling, they were harvested, their bodies commodified, their lives reduced to transactions in a ledger. The cruelty was methodical, the perpetrators calculated, the buyers indifferent. Trust in institutions weakened further. How did this network operate for years without detection? The FBI acknowledged that the operation's use of encrypted communications and shell companies delayed discovery. The fraudulent research exemption claims prevented local inspections. The international nature of financing obscured transaction patterns until advanced forensic analysis was applied. But critics argued the system failed. Migrants disappeared, families reported, red flags existed, yet the network grew. On December 3rd, the U.S. Department of Justice held a press conference in Washington. The Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division detailed the scope of the operation and the ongoing investigation. Charges had been filed, assets had been seized, international cooperation was continuing. But the message was clear. This was not an isolated case. Organ trafficking networks exist. They exploit the vulnerable. They rely on secrecy and international borders to evade accountability. The fight to dismantle these networks was just beginning. Share this with someone who believes the system protects the vulnerable. They need to see how deep exploitation runs. The facility in Houston was dismantled. The hearts were transferred to federal custody for further analysis and potential identification efforts.
The building was seized as evidence. It stands now as a monument to a horror that should not have existed. 250 lives, 250 families, 250 futures erased. Not by accident, not by tragedy, by design, by greed, by a market that valued profit over humanity. Abdirahman Khalif Osman's trial is scheduled for April 2026. He faces life in prison without parole if convicted on all counts. His co-conspirators await trial in federal facilities across the country. Extradition efforts for international buyers continue, but justice delayed is justice uncertain. The victims remain nameless in many cases. Their families remain in anguish. The system that allowed this to flourish remains vulnerable. This story exposes a darkness that exists in the shadows of globalization, where wealth can purchase anything, where borders are porous to crime but barriers to justice, where human life is inventory. The preserved hearts in that Houston warehouse were not medical specimens, they were evidence of a betrayal, A betrayal of the vulnerable by the powerful. A betrayal of morality by markets. A betrayal of humanity by those who saw profit in death. Comment your thoughts below. Say what you really think about networks that trade human lives like commodities. Hit like so this story escapes algorithms that bury uncomfortable truths. The fight continues. It continues in courtrooms where prosecutors seek justice for the nameless. It continues at borders where advocates demand protection for migrants. It continues in legislative chambers where laws must be strengthened. But it only succeeds if people refuse to look away. If awareness becomes action, if outrage becomes accountability. The FBI and ICE exposed one facility, but the question remains, how many others exist? How many more victims are stored in unmarked warehouses? How many buyers remain untouched? This is only the beginning. The network is larger than one man in Houston. It spans continents. It involves cartels, traffickers, corrupt officials, and wealthy buyers who believe their money places them above morality. Every exposed node reveals 10 more connections. Every arrest raises 10 more questions. The 250 hearts in Harris County were not the total. They were a fraction. And until the demand is eliminated, until buyers face consequences equal to their crimes, the supply chain will adapt. It will move. It will hide, but it will not stop. Not unless people like you demand it stops. Your engagement matters. Your awareness matters. Your refusal to accept this as inevitable matters. Comment "No more" if you believe this ends now. Share so silence no longer protects them. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in this investigation. The fight continues, and it needs you to speak. Because somewhere right now, another truck is crossing the border, another warehouse is operating in darkness, another family is searching for someone who will never come home.